Hi class, this is going to be a review of the content that we covered the last class and the class before we went on spring break. In this review we will cover all the commands that you need to comprehend in order for you to successfully complete lab number 5. Not all the commands in the presentation will be covered in this review. If you have any questions about the commands that I didn't cover, you can come to the tutoring session on Friday at 7 p.m. or you can message me via Slack and schedule an appointment as a one-on-one meeting. With that said, let's get started. So, the commands that we're going to cover here today are going to be, first of all, cat and tag. So, let's move along right there. Okay, so if you want more practical examples of the commands that we're going to cover, don't forget that you can go to the website of the course where we have examples of the commands over here. All of this column is complete, but I'm still working on the networking one. So I just wanted to mention that out because you are going to be needing this for your lab and probably for your midterm as well. So I'm going to open the one that says cat since these ones are faster to load than the one in the presentation. And so what do we use the cat command for? Simple. Display the content of a file. It wasn't intended for that, but that is an unintended result that we love cat for. So whenever you have a text file and you want to see what's inside the text file, all you have to use the cat command for that. For instance, let me see if I have any text files in my, oh yeah, I have a text file called errorlog.txt on my computer right now. I want to see what's inside that file. All I have to do is put cat and then type errorlog, which is the name of the file that I want to take a look at. For instance, one file that my computer has is the etc group file, which contains information about the groups that are in my computer. So if I want to see what's inside the file, I type cat and then the file etc group. And as you can see, this is what's inside that particular file. A lot of information or relevant information about the groups that are in my computer. Let me clear my screen. And that is the basic usage of the cat command. If you want to learn more about the cat command, don't forget you can always go to the man page. So we can do cat help, or you can do man cat and read the man page. Take a look at what all the options do, practice them on your own, and you have examples on the website for further understanding. With that said, let's move along to the next command, which is tag. Tag does the same thing as cat, but in the opposite order. So cat will display the file from head to toe. In this case, tag will do it from toe to head. So it will flip it around. For instance, let's assume that I have a file, and I'm going to create a simple text file right now. So I'm going to call this, I probably have a to-do list file over here. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what's inside cat to-do.txt. Notice that we have three lines over here. Clean the room, do the homework, pay the bills, and then write some code. The last line being write some code, which is line number 4. If we use the tag command instead of cat, this will be line number 1. For instance, tag to do.txt. As you can see, the first line is write some code, then right over here, yep, write some code, pay the bills, do homework, and then clean the room. So, and yeah, that's it. Cat tag used for the same purpose. One displays it in the opposite direction of the other. So let's clear the screen over there. Don't forget to practice the commands. Okay, I'm not gonna go over more. More is document pager. It allows you to read documents, right? It allows you to read text file, so you can move around one page at a time or 2 pages at a time. You can read the description and try the commands on your own. I'm not gonna go over the less command either, because it does the same thing as more, but better. We went over over those 2 commands during our lecture. And you don't need to know them for our lab because you're not going to be needing them in the lab. You will be needing them in your day-to-day Linux use. Hence, I recommend that you touch upon them if you want, and if you have any question, reach out to me. So the head and tail command. Let's talk about head. So the head command is used for displaying a given number of lines of a particular file. By default, it will show you the first 10 lines. So if I do head etc group, it's going to show me the first 10 lines, right? Now, what happens if I want to see the first 15 lines? Simple. I just give it an argument of minus 15. It's going to give me the first 15. What if I want to do the first one? Simple. Very simple, right? Now, the tail command, it's the opposite. It gives me the last 10 lines by default. And if I want to see the last 20, all I have to do is put minus 20. For instance, if I do tail, tail etc group, let's take a look at the default behavior. These are the last 10 lines. If I want to see the last line, minus 1. And that gives me the last line. Again, here are examples, head and tail. Practice them on your free time. Okay, let's the cut command now. This command is a little bit more interesting. The cut command allows you to extract the specific sections of a particular file in a line-by-line basis. Let's say this is how the cut command works. It will cut or split the file into columns, right? And every line becomes a row, and pretty much whatever you define as your delimiter, it will become the separator between column 1, column 2, 3, and 4 until the end. You can choose any character as the separator of the particular file. Now, the cut command has a ton of options. Let's take a look at some specific examples. So, if I want to cut a number of bytes per line, and 1 byte is equal to one character, I can use simply cut, the option minus b, and then give it the number of bytes that I want to cut from the particular file. For example, if I do cut minus b and then 1, and I do etc group, it's gonna cut the first byte of every line in the etc group file, and it's gonna display it into the standard output, which is the terminal. I can do more. I can do, just give me a range. For example, give me 1 to 10, and there you go, the first 10 characters or the first 10 bytes. Okay, now this over here, basic usage, not crazy useful, but you will find some usage as you move along in the Linux world. Now, this is my favorite usage of the cut command, because it allows me to specify what character per line I want to use to cut the particular file. For example, notice that when you do, let's do cat etc group. Notice that every line in this file is separated by, every line over here in this file, in every entry, there are particular fields over here separated by a colon. I can cut this file so that cut can give me the very first column, the second, or the last column if I so desire. How do I do it? We use the minus d option for delimiter, and we say cut minus d, give me, right? That's the basic function. Cut minus d, and then the delimiter that you want to specify. This can be a space, this can be a letter, this can be a symbol, this can be whatever you want to cut every line of the file with. And then you need to specify the field that you want cut to give you. So cut, I want you to give me the first field of the etc group file. And as you can see, it cut the first field only. Hey cut, why don't you give me the third field? And as you can see, it gave me the third field only. Okay, this example over here, I like it a lot as well, because this example allows me to cut the file with the given delimiter, and then replace the delimiter by any other character that I want. And this one is pretty cool. For example, I want you to cut the first field and the third field of the etc group character, of the etc group file, right? And as you can see, by default, it is a colon, because that is the field that the file is using at the moment. Sorry, the delimiter that the file is using at the moment. I would like to use an equal sign. So for that, we're going to modify the command a little bit. We're going to keep the minus d because, we're using still the delimiter to cut, but we're going to provide the option minus s to tell it, hey, I want to change the output delimiter. So we're going to say, give me the output delimiter being an equal sign with one space before and after. And as you can see, it's no longer a colon. Now we have an equal sign with a space before and after. And this allows us to play a lot with this. And it's pretty fun. I suggest you to try out these commands that you have over here in this particular page. Okay, so I'm not going to go over the paste command, and the sort command I will want to go over. The sort command is pretty good because it's pretty cool because it allows us to do exactly what is called sorting data. And sorting is very important. Now, how do you use the sort command? Well, there are a lot of examples over here, but let's go over them one by one. So, if you want to sort a file that has a bunch of data, for example, let's see what we have over here. I have, okay, let's see what we have in all files.txt. So, cat all files.txt, all files.txt. Okay, we have just a long listing of files. That's not very useful. Let's create a file and let's call this users, right? Users.txt. And let's say the first user is called Maria, the second user is called John, the third user is called Peter, and the one is called 123 J-Doe, and then the other one is called AZ Gonzalez 83. The other one is called underscore 85 underscore Juanita. And there you go. So we have a list of usernames over here. So if we do cat users, that's what we have. Let's sort this out. So if I want to sort this list, all I have to do is sort. If I want to sort this file, sort and do users.txt. And as you can see, it's sorted out. Numbers, symbols, capital letters, lowercase letters, A to Z. Right? We can save this to a file by using the -O option and then providing the name of the file that we want to save this sorted list as, and then the file that we're sorting. For instance, I can do sort -O users sorted and then users.txt. And now if I do cat users sorted, actually let's just do star because we only have characters over there. As you can see, we have the first file and then we have the second file over here. Okay, now let's take a look at this. If you have a file with numeric data, you can sort it using -n. If you want to sort the file with numeric data and in reverse order, we can use -nr. If you want to sort the file using a specific column, you can use the -k option. For instance, let's modify my file over here, right? And I'm gonna provide two columns to this file, so separated by a space. I'm gonna put here, I don't know, some numeric data. Let's assume this is the ID of every user. Okay, and let's put the other one, and then the other one, and finally the last one, which is gonna be 000. There you go. Thank you. So I can do sort -k 2 to specify the second field and then users.txt. And as you can see, now the file is sorted using the second field. And you can tell because obviously John, the name John, if we were doing the default sort, will go after 123.jdoe. But because the number over here is gonna go less. It's gonna go at higher. Okay, so if you wanna check if a file is sorted, you can use the option -c. And if you wanna sort and remove any duplicated entries in a particular file, you can use the option -u. Okay, so the wc command is used for counting bytes, words, and lines. For instance, if I wanna know how many bytes are there in the file users.txt, I can use wc -c and then users.txt. And it has 96 bytes. And if I want to do how many characters, we do -m. If I want to do how many lines, we do -l. If we want to know how many words, -w. Okay, so I'm not gonna go over the tr command. You can read it on your own later on, or you can ask me questions if you have any questions. I'm not gonna go over diff either. Find, we have a lecture on the find command, so we're gonna, once we get to that lecture, we'll cover it. This is just how to open files from the command line. It's It's something you can learn on your own. That's something you can learn on your own. It's same thing. We have a lecture coming on set and awk, and we're gonna cover them when we get there. It's gonna go by the time that we cover shell scripting, and redirection. We're not gonna cover redirection now. We're gonna cover it after we cover the grep command. So let's see if we have grep. Yay, we have grep over here. Now, what does the grep command do? We use the grep command to no, actually no, let me backtrack. The grep command is used for matching specific strings in a line-by-line basis on any file or output of a command. Let me repeat that. The grep command, the grep program, is used for matching a specific pattern of a string, right, in a line-by-line basis on a file or on the output of a command. So, what does this mean? Now, I wanna take a look at. I want to make something real quick. So what we're gonna do is that, and I would like to do this graphically because I would like you to replicate this. So I'm gonna open a text editor, and over here I'm gonna put a couple lines of text. So the first one is gonna say I like potatoes. The other one is gonna be potatoes. Potatoes are the greatest food in the world. Then the next one will be my friend Joe does not fancy potatoes. And then the other one will be, are you nuts? Potatoes are the best. Then the last one will be, pizza is great. So we have a file over here that has 5 lines, right? Let's say that I want to run a command that is gonna give me all. Let's put a couple of more files, just because I want the output of the grep command to be self-evident. So I'm gonna put here pizza is not great. Then the last one is gonna be salad is meh. And then the other one is eating healthy is good. And finally is I am running out of sentences. Then the last one is my imagination is as bad as my spelling of the English language. Okay, now we have a file that has 5 sentences. Let's save this. So I'm gonna do Control S or go to literally save, but I'll do Control S, and in my home directory I'm gonna name this sentences.txt. Why not? Save it and close it. Now we have over here a file called sentences.txt. Now let's say that I want to display all the lines that contain the word potato. I can use the grep command for that, and it's simple. All I have to do is type grep, and then here the search string that I'm looking for, the pattern that I am looking for, right? I'm gonna tell grep, hey grep, go to this file line by line, and if you find the word potato, display it to the screen. Otherwise, continue. So potato, and then the file, which is sentences.txt. And as you can see, it gave me 3 sentences. But we have 5 sentences, I believe, that had the word potato. For instance, let's open another terminal over here and do cat sentences. Right? I have more than one sentence. Like the first one has the word potatoes. The second sentence has the word potatoes, but it wasn't shown over here. The third one has the word potatoes, and it was shown. Right, I have the word potato, not exactly potatoes, but you know, it's what I'm looking for. But why didn't the second one show? Well, it's simple. Your search string is in lowercase. This sentence has uppercase potatoes. So we can turn that on and off. How? Well, if you look at the examples over here, we have some common options of the grep command that we can utilize to enhance the power of grep. Let's take a look at the first one. This will turn off case sensitivity. So if we run the same command one more time, but this time we provide the option -I, notice that potatoes with capital P appears over here because grep was told, hey, ignore any case sensitivity, give me potatoes in any form that you find them. I like -I. Okay, now sometimes you want to know in which particular line number your string was found. In this case, the option -n is quite handy. For instance, if I do I and n, in this case, a little number appears over here on the side, letting me know that the word potato was found on line number 1, and in line number 2 it was also found, and in line number 3 it was also found. Now, if you want to use regular expressions on grep, extended regular expressions, right, you can use capital X, as capital E. We're going to go on very deep on regular expressions later on throughout the course, but for now, just know that that's an option. Also, if you want to use G, also it's also for basic regular expressions. And if you want to invert the search, this is something that I want to talk about. What do you mean by inverting the search? Well, right now I show you how to display the lines that contain a particular string, right? But what if you want to get the lines that don't have that particular string? For that, we can use -v. So I can tell potato, hey potato, give me, hey grep, give me all the lines that do not have the word potato on them. In this case, notice that potatoes with capital P is shown because I turn on case sensitivity by eliminating option I. But the other stuff over here does not have the word potato, hence it matches our search string. Sometimes we only want to show the string match. What does that mean? Well, let's say I'm looking for all the lines that contain the word potato, but I don't want to display all this mumbo jumbo. No, I only want to display the word, right? Because maybe I'm looking for the word potato and any variation of the word potato that can be found. So I can do that and provide the option O. And notice that it only showed me potato, 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 because that's the search string that I specified over here. Okay, so there are more options of the grep command. Literally, if you type man grep, you are gonna see that the grep command has a crazy amount of options. Way too many options, right? If you want to read through them, by all means, go ahead and read through them. It's cool. Or if you want to, look up some videos or some tutorials online on grep, that will be fine as well. Grep is amazing. We're gonna work on working with the standard output later on, but there are some examples over here of using grep that I suggest that you go through and go over them because they are really, really, really cool. These ones specifically that show you how to look for lines that have a particular word at the beginning or a particular word in the end, or that have a particular, maybe they start with, letters A to G or something like that. Go read through this document. It's pretty fun. Give the old college try to this stuff. Now, with that said, I would like to cover the last thing on this review, which is redirecting a standard input and a standard output. Now, this is another feature of the shell, of Bash, and of Linux that you're gonna fall in love with, because it gives you the ability to create your own custom commands. It gives you the ability to manipulate the output of one command and use it as input to another, or maybe save it to a file. So how does this work? This works because Linux has something called file descriptors, and we have three file descriptors that the shell can use for this stuff. That's 0, 1, and 2, and they stand for a standard input, a standard output, and a standard error. A standard input is normally your keyboard, right? So when you're typing stuff, and a standard output is your display, right? The terminal that's showing you the output of the command. And a standard error is, well, the errors. When a command throws you an error, what you're seeing is actually the content of a standard error, which is a file. These guys are actual files. Now, this is what we're gonna do. To understand this stuff, the best thing that we can do is actually use them. So, let's work with first a standard output. Now, I'm doing it to clear. And in reality, this is better explained in the presentation because I wrote this a while ago, and it was literally extracted from this book, which is not very newbie friendly, but it is super, super good. In the book that I recommend for the course, which is the Linux Command Line by William Schutz, That book has a very, very user-friendly explanation of a standard input, output, and a standard error, which you have access to the book and you should read the chapter on it. But let's take a look at some example. So when I do ls, this over here is a standard output, right? This was thrown to the standard output. If I want to save this to a file, it is easy. All I have to do is ls greater than, and then provide the name of the file that I want to save that to. In this case, I'm going to call this my files. And that's it. If I do cat my files, notice that it's the same output as this, because that's what it did. Instead of displaying the output of ls, the output of ls was saved in my files. This is called saving the output of a command to a file. So we redirected the output from a standard output to a particular file. So I'm going to clear my screen. There is another thing we can do. We can also append to that file. Meaning, what if I want to continue saving stuff to the file? If I do ls minus a, greater than, and then my files, the output of ls minus a will not be shown on the screen, but it will be appended to the end of my files. If I press enter, notice that if I do cat my files, at the end I have the output of ls minus a. Cool, right? Okay, now you know how to save to a file, and you also know how to append to a file. However, when you have an error in the output of one command, using the technique that I just showed you will not work. For instance, if we do ls documents, notice this is an error. If I try to save this to a file called my files, notice that when I do cat my files, nothing is shown. Well, first of all, the content of my file was overwritten, right? But this wasn't inserted because this is not a standard output. This is a standard error because this is an error of a command. And a properly written application will throw the errors in a standard error and the output in a standard output. Now, all of these core Linux utilities are properly written, so they are going to display the standard error in the actual error file descriptor. So how do we redirect this to a file? Simple. We use the number. So we do ls documents, but instead of using greater than, we do number 2 greater than, and this will redirect the error to my files. If we want to redirect a standard output and also a standard error, we can do the following. For instance, if I do ls pictures and also pictures, notice that this command, this particular folder doesn't exist. There is no such a thing as a folder with lowercase pictures, right? With lowercase p, unless you create it. But this one exists. If I press enter, notice that this is the output of pictures. But this is an error because lowercase with p doesn't exist. If I want to redirect all of this to a file, all I have to do is do this. And now both the standard error and the standard output will be saved to my files. Press enter and notice that nothing is shown on the terminal because everything was saved in my files. This feature over here only works in Bash version 4 and above. There is an example on how to do it in older versions of Bash in the presentation. I am expecting that you as a student are reading the presentation and are actually reviewing this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do clear. Now, this is how you save to a file, how you append to a file, a standard output and a standard error. Now, sometimes you want to do something with the output of one command. Not just saving it, but actually using that output for something else. Linux allows us to do that using something called the pipe. This is called piping, which is taking the output of one command as input to another command. And this is kind of like a dummy example, but it's just for illustrating how this works. Now, let's take a look at something more interesting. So let's say that I'm typing I want to know the IP address of my computer, right? As you can see, if I type IPAD, short for IP address, it shows me a ton of information about the network configuration of my computer. This over here indicates the network interface card. I happen to have 2 on my computer, which is the Ethernet card and the loopback interface card. But whenever I'm reading this is a little bit annoying to read, right? You know, you gotta actually know what each of these things means. All I want to know is the internet, is the IP address. So if you take a look at this line over here, we have something called inet or internet, inet, and then it's followed by an IP address. Is it possible for me to use grep to grab only this line over here, so that I can see only the IP addresses? Well, yes, I can, and for that we're gonna use the pipe. So we're gonna do IP AD pipe and then send that to grep, and we're gonna tell grep, hey grep, for the output of this command, go through a line by line, and whenever you find the word in it, display it on the screen. A little better, right? But there's something else we can do. I want to tell the shell, hey, I want you to take this output and I want to send it to the head command because I only want to see the loopback address, and that happens to be the first line. So I'm going to tell grep, hey, pipe this into head and give me only the first line. Nice, right? But we can do more with this. We can most certainly do more with this. I'm going to tell head, hey head, you know, this file looks like it is separated by spaces. Maybe you can use cut to give me, you know, the third field that contains the IP address. Or maybe we can tell, hey, you know what? I just want the line, you know, 127.0.1. So we can tell grep using the -o option, hey, give me 127.0.0.1. And we can pipe as many commands as we want. Let's backtrack. So the IP address command, the output of this command, was sent to grep. Grep parsed the output looking for all the lines that contain the word in it. Then the head command was used for taking the output of this grep command to only extract the first line. And then grep was used one more time to only display the loopback address by matching 127.0.0.1. This is called piping, and you can lay as many pipes as you want to manipulate the output of one command as much as you want. This is the beauty of Linux. Now, I don't expect nobody to get this on the first shot. Use it, research it, practice it. Practice will make you a master of the command line. With that said, I'm ending this video. I see you in the next one.